We're starting a series called Mean People today. And I will tell you, before first service, I ran into a mean person. We were talking about sports and stuff, and I know we talk a lot about this orange versus blue, Tennessee versus Kentucky. And we were kind of jabbering back and forth, and I said, well, honestly, I don't really watch a whole lot of sports, and I don't watch football. I'm sorry. I'm sure you guys are great. I only watch basketball. He said, well, that's all y'all have got at Kentucky. Now, isn't that mean? No, I'm joking. He did say that, but we were having good fun. So I want to separate in your mind. There are kind of fun, rude interactions. I call them fun, rude interactions because you're being rude, but you're being fun. But I'm talking about real mean people. Let me tell you a story about a real mean person I ran into last spring. You guys, last spring I was heading with my parents. I was driving my dad's brand new car. He wanted me to drive it because he doesn't like to drive a long way anymore. And we were going up to Fort Wayne, Indiana to visit my brothers up there. So it's a long trip anyway. And that rain had just come through and everything was flooding. And we knew that there were some road closures the day we left. But we knew, and we figured like the interstates would be open. Well, we get up to where the I-69 corridor that runs through Evansville all the way up. It's the easiest way to go now. It was shut down. At exit 4, it was flooded. And I was like, what is going on? So we took the detour. And we're on these detour, and I said, Dad, I don't know where this is taking us, but at some point we're going to cross a bridge. We're going to be in Illinois or Indiana. We'll figure it out. So we just keep following, and if the sign says don't drive in this way, we didn't drive down it. We didn't pass any signs. We weren't trying to break the law. We were actually following several cars along this path, back in these kind of back roads, trying to get to Henderson, Kentucky, where we knew could get on the up. And so we're driving along, and I notice, man, Dad, I can see flooding up there. It looks like cars are crossing it, but it was like a quarter mile of really, it was probably a foot deep of water. So I said, you want to risk it? And he's like, if everybody else is crossing, and they were, everybody, even like a little Corolla was crossing. I was like, we got this, Dad. We're good. So we're driving through it. We go really slow. We come out on their side. Of course, all the other cars had kind of gotten around the curve, and we come up, and they're all stopped. And there's a guy in a white truck that's coming the opposite way. And he's stopping every single, not just one car, every single car he spends. We were there probably 10 or 15 minutes waiting for him to finally get to us. And we thought, oh, well, he's going to obviously share with us some amazing news that's going to help us get where we need to go. And the first words out of his mouth as I rolled down my window was like, where do y'all think you're going? I was like, well, actually, we're trying to get to Indiana. We're trying to get over to Fort Wayne, Indiana. That's eventually, we're following the detour signs. He said, well, you can't go this way. Well, that's the first I've heard of it. I was like, we didn't see any signs. He said, you didn't see the water back there? I'm scratching my head just a little bit. And we have this really, he was literally just wanting to be mean. Because as we're finishing up our 7 or 8 minute conversation about how dumb I was as a driver, I looked at him in the back of his truck, and he's got all the warning signs in the back of his truck. He either purposefully didn't put them out so he could have a fun day of making people feel terrible, or he hadn't done his job yet and hadn't put them out. And he was blaming me. I'm telling you right now, for the next 30 minutes, I talked to my dad about how I was going to throat punch this guy. That we turned around and we went back the other way, and I thought, if he stops me again, I definitely will do something I don't want to do. I was hot. You can tell I'm kind of agitated about it. That was one of the meanest interactions I've ever had with somebody, because it felt so, I was like, you're just so wrong right now. I don't even know how to respond to you. Which I want to ask you real quick. You ever met a mean person? How do you respond or react to mean people? I go, what happens in your brain? You don't have to tell me. I know what happens. You want to throat punch them. You don't have to tell me. I know exactly what you're feeling. Unless you're just, oh man, you're just such the kindest person. I'm just so nice to people. Until you run into the right mean person. I know we're all, listen, if you're a mean person here today, I'm not talking to you, okay? I can't fix you. What I'm hoping to do is for those of us who run into you on a daily basis, maybe we can get better at responding to you. This is because, think about how you respond to mean people. Don't mean people oftentimes turn you into the very kind of person you don't want to become? Like, if we aren't prepared, let's just be honest, if we aren't prepared, the mean people in our lives will gain a measure of control over our lives. That guy had me for a full half hour. He had control of my emotions and what I talked about. My mom and dad are in the car. You know how many times I go on a road trip with my parents now as a 50-year-old man with my 70-something-year-old parents? You know how often that happens? This was the first time, me and just my parents. That's never happened. I have 3 siblings. We've never gone anywhere alone. I wasted 30 minutes of their attention and their love, and they're loving me on a guy I wanted to throw punch. Right? He had a measure of control over my life, and I didn't want to give it to him. But I wasn't prepared for that interaction. I didn't do my due diligence in getting ready for it. But let's just be honest with them, whether you're a believer or not, whether you're here because a friend dragged you or not, or you come here often, let me just say something we're all going to say is true. It's very difficult to be good to people who aren't good. It's very difficult to be kind to someone who is unkind. Like to change the way we respond and react to people who do bad things to us, who talk behind our back, who are at work doing things that you feel like are pretty personal toward you, and they act like, well, that's just the way I do my job. But you're like, I know you did that to make my job harder today. Like it feels that way. To be kind and good to that person in return is nearly a monumental task. So here's what I want to ask and have you think about this morning as we get to our topic. Like when we think about how we respond and react to mean people, it is natural response to want to get even, isn't it? To get them back, to treat them the way that they've treated us. Because they've been so mean, by golly, they deserve a little bit of their own medicine. It's not even medicine they're giving out, but we act like they deserve some, and we've got the answer. Don't you just love it when you know for sure that you are justified in your anger? Don't you just love it when you know that you can let go of all of it on this person because they deserve it? Doesn't that feel really good? You ever do that thing in your head where something happens on a Friday, and all week long you're like, I am going to love Monday because I'm going to put them straight. I'm going to bring it so hard. I'm going to talk behind their back. I'm going to have all the people in office with me. We're going to go after them, and it's going to be beautiful because they're going to get their own medicine. Let me just put this out there. Getting even does make us even with someone that we don't even like, though. You ever thought about that way? When you go after them and you try to get even, you end up being even. You get even, but you've gotten even on a level that you didn't even want to be on. And here you are, talking about how mean that person is, and all you've done is respond with being mean. Gosh, I don't want to be that, and I know you don't want to be that. You don't want your life to be controlled by these mean people. You don't want to have those responses, reactions. What do? I mean, maybe we just ignore them. Any of you have ignore the mean person kind of person? You know what happens when you ignore a mean person long enough? I mean, you can get mean with them right away, and you can go into battle, or you can ignore it. I'm going to be the better person. I'll just ignore it. And you know what you do? You build up a whole lot of meanness in you, and then it spills out on somebody that's not even mean to you. You ever gone home after a day of being around a mean person, and it's been weeks of meanness, and you get home, and your kids or your spouse or your roommate says something really simple like, hey, man, you forgot to take out the trash line. You shut your mouth. I didn't forget, right? And boo, you blow up. Boy, ignoring mean people doesn't really work either. So what's our choice? If we can't get mean back and we can't ignore them, is there a third option? We're going to try. We're going to try to get there today. So you guys all know, you're in church. You kind of know what I'm going to say, right? Jesus modeled for us how to be good to people who were not good to him, right? We're not going there. We're going to go somewhere else. We're going to go to a really, really helpful story in 1 Samuel. And it's about David, who was the second king of Israel. Now, if you remember, David was the one, you've probably heard David and Goliath. David is the one who, as a young boy, defeated the giant that nobody else would take on. The army of Israel should have been taking him on, but he was the only one that had faith enough to trust God to take on this giant, and he takes him down. And from then on, David's life is kind of like, it's kind of in turmoil because David then gets anointed as king. He'll someday be king, and King Saul does not like this at all. King Saul, right here, his son Jonathan should take over. Jonathan and David are really good friends. David even serves in Saul's court. He's around him a lot. This is like a guy I know, and Saul is angry about it. He actually tries to kill David a couple times. He ends up chasing David off, and David is on the run. And anybody who's on the run from a king like that ends up picking up a few other people who are also on the run from a king like that. And so David has been out away trying to run away from Saul. He's been kind of like wandering through the wilderness. He's got several hundred men and their families with him that he's leading along the way, because someday he will be king. God has promised him, but there's a big, long waiting period. And this is where we find David. He's in the midst of this really, really long waiting period. And then this starts to happen in 1 Samuel. Let's look at the story. Let's jump in. A certain man in Maon who had property there at Carmel was very wealthy. You guys picture wealthy. You got wealthy? Picture wealthy. Close your eyes. Wealthy person, right? Here's what wealthy is in those days. He had 1,000 goats and 3,000 sheep. That sounds horrible. I don't know about you. I smell chicken barns on Highway 80. That's 1,000 chickens. What's 1,000 goats and 3,000 sheep smell like? This is wealthy, right? This is livelihood. This guy has, and by the way, this doesn't even make, does anybody know how much space pasture land would be required for this many thousands of animals? I don't even know. Like, this is huge. This is a lot of wealth in those days. This is a lot of pasture land to go out and feed those animals. They have to go pretty far away from home to go get fed. Like, you can't just all keep them in the same 10-acre plot. They all take up 10 acres. Like, what are you going to do with that? They've got to go out. They run wild. They go, and then they bring them back. And he was shearing them at Carmel. His name was Nabal. Now, Nabal's interesting. We find out later in the story, we're not going to read this part, but Nabal's name means fool. So we have a wealthy fool in this story. This is kind of interesting. So we're already set. This story is set up great, man. Oh, this is going to be awesome. It gets even better. Look how Nabal is described. So his name was Nabal, and his wife's name was Abigail. She was an intelligent and beautiful woman, but her husband was surly and mean in his dealings. And every woman in the room said, exactly. That was, no women think they're beautiful? I thought y'all would all shout for that one. Like, the intelligent and beauty, here's the woman and the meanness, right? So this is beautiful. Wonderful story. We have a mean guy, and we have a wonderful, sweet little lady who's his wife. And he's so mean and surly, but he's so wealthy, and he has all this power. Man, what are we going to do with this? What possibly is going to go wrong in this scenario? It's going to be great, right? Okay, well, let's see what David does about it. While David was in the wilderness, he heard that Nabal was shearing sheep. So he sent 10 young men and said to them, let's keep going. What do they say? Go up to Nabal at Carmel and greet him in my name. Right? People kind of know me. I'm David. I've been around for a while, and they know rumors spread about what's happening with me and King Saul, and they know I've been anointed as king, and they know me. They definitely know me because I took care of Goliath. They know me. Greet him in my name and say to him, long life to you. Good health to you and your household, and good health to all that is yours. Make sure you greet him with all the respect that you can, guys. I know you guys are young, but let me teach you how to do this. You go up there and you show him respect. Show him all the respect he's due as a wealthy man who has lots and lots of things to take care of, okay? Now, here's where the message continues. He said, tell him this. Now, I hear that it's sheep shearing time, and when your shepherds were with us, we did not mistreat them. In fact, and the whole time they were at Carmel, nothing of theirs was missing. Like, just make sure you remind him. We're out here in the wilderness, hundreds of us. We don't have flocks of sheep with us. Now, we brought a few along with us, but we don't have flocks of sheep. We're kind of poor right now. We're making it in the wilderness. But by the way, when your sheep were up here, way far away from home, and they were up here in the wilderness, we didn't take any. We could have. Because I'm David. And I'm going to be king. And I've got lots of outlaws with me. And we don't mind taking stuff. We could have taken your stuff, but we didn't. In fact, we did such a good job. We protected them. Nothing went missing. Business owners in the room. Don't you have a line item in your business that's actually for loss of items? You hire a teenager to put your eggs on the shelf. How many eggs is he dropping? Right? How many get stolen? How many things just disappear from Walmart during the week? What is it, right? In business, we know that there's going to be things that come up missing. And David says, no, you don't understand. All 1,000 sheep went out. We made sure all 1,000 sheep came back, right? We protected your stuff. In fact, you don't have to take my word for it. Here's what he says next. He says, make sure you tell them, ask your own servants, and they will tell you how we treated them. Therefore, and here's the big ask, David says, be favorable toward my men, since we come at a festive time. You're about to celebrate big. You're about to, man, you're bringing in all this money right now. You're shearing sheep and you're celebrating. You're having a good time. And listen, by the way, we didn't steal anything. Nothing got lost. You're going to have a bigger, I don't know what you call it, a sheep shearing day than you've ever had before. It's going to be the biggest ever. Just look favorably on this. And here's what he says. Please give your servants and your son David just whatever you can find for them. Would you just give a little donation because we've done all we can do to protect your stuff. I know you didn't hire us to do it. We don't have huge expectations. I'm not looking for you to pay us for our protection or security. I'm just saying, hey, if you had any little bit of extra, would you mind throwing it our way? Okay. Is that an unreasonable request from a guy who's out in the wilderness with families to feed? Is it an unreasonable request? Is David not being a great leader by trying to figure out a way to provide for the people he's got with him? Has he not done the right thing? Has he not done the right thing by protecting and not stealing from Nabal? He could have just stolen a few sheep and the guy never would have known. He could have done just a little bit on the side, but he didn't. Man of integrity, good intentions, always doing the right thing. Man, David, upstanding guy. Who wouldn't want to help a guy like David, right? When David's men arrived, they gave Nabal this message in David's name. And then they waited. How long does it take you to make that decision, Nabal? It's not about that, is it? I am more powerful right now. This is me reading into Nabal. Why you make him wait? You could have said a yes or a no. Why? Well, you got to show David, I know what's up, right? I'm a wealthy man. You come to me begging? Why don't you just wait a little bit? It'll be fun. And then he says this. Nabal answered David's servants, who is this David? Who is this son of Jesse? I think that's kind of funny. He's like, who's David? How's he know he's the son of Jesse then if he don't know who David is? That's how you knew people around then. Oh yeah, that's Jesse's son, David. He knows who David is. He's making a point. Who does David think he is? Who's the son of Jesse? He's nobody to me. He ain't king yet. He got no reason to come to me for anything. Many servants are breaking away from their masters these days. He's just an outlaw. King Saul's been trying to kill him. Deal with that, David. I got nothing for you. In fact, Nabal says this. Why should I take my bread and water and the meat that I have slaughtered from my shearers and give it to men coming from who knows where? Just like a Nabal, right? You know any Nabals in your life? Surly and mean all the time. You try to do good to them and they just return, oh man, they ain't got no time for you. Who do you think you are? Where do you think you're going? I'll tell you where I'm going, buddy. I'll find you. Right? Look how David responds. This is so, sometimes you read the Bible, I don't know about you, sometimes I read the Bible and I'll go, that's in there. They put this in the Bible. They should have left this out. David's men turned around and went back. That sounded like fun. And when they arrived, they reported every single word. David, you're not going to believe this. Word for word, here's what he said. Blah, 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 blah. And in this moment, David's being chased by King Saul. He's been promised the kingship. He knows what power he has in this moment and what God has promised him. And David in this moment looks at his men and he goes, you know what? Guys, it's going to be okay. We're going to trust God in this moment. God's going to provide. I thought it was going to be Nabal, but you know what? Let's just remember. Let's sit down and pray. In fact, I know we don't have much food left, but God will provide and we're going to trust him for our next step. That's not what he says at all. In fact, it's the total opposite. This is what I'm saying, guys. It's about to get real. Are y'all ready? David said to his men, each of you strap on your sword. Oh, dang. So they did, and David strapped on his as well. Stop, pause, hold on. When you go to war in these days, the king doesn't go to war because if everybody gets killed, the king has to survive. The king doesn't go to war unless it's really serious business. Strap on your swords, guys. We're going. And David starts to put his on. Everybody's like, uh-oh. Like, this is personal. This is big time. About 400 men went up with David. Hold up, David. Is this a little bit of an overreaction? I just want to put this in perspective. When somebody hurts your feelings and is mean to you, Do you ever gather up all of Facebook to help you go after this person? Do you ever do that? No, nobody would do that. Do you ever have that response where like, I'm going to get everybody in my connections to know that this person needs to be brought down? This is a little bit of an overreaction. How many men do you think David really needs to take to have the next conversation? Maybe 4 or 5. David should go in person next, right? Hey, Nabal, are you serious? Like, are we serious here? Like, you got nothing? You got no extra? Like, have a little bit of like, no, David's like, no, strap on your swords, guys. All 400 of you are coming with me. And then David's response is so like us. It's so like me when I'm angry. Here's what he says. David looks at his man and he says, it's been useless. All of my watching over this fellow's property in the wilderness, I've done so many good things for them. Man, I took out the trash for them last week and they were supposed to do it, but I took their turn. And then in the wilderness, so that nothing of his was missing, I did all I knew to do good for him. He has paid me back, say it, evil for good. David is justified in his anger. I did what was right. He didn't. He deserves everything he can get right now. Do you ever get that way? You know you're right. You're in the right. They're wrong, and you're about to end it. That's the way I get. And believe me, I will end it. It will be the last thing I say to them, but it'll be the last thing they need to say. They need to hear from me. We can end this relationship now, and it'll be over. I'll be done with them. We all get that way sometimes. And it gets worse. You think it's bad enough that David puts his own emotional, mental health and his men at risk. Look what he does next. Jeez. May God deal with David, be it ever so severely, if by morning I leave alive one male of all who belong to him. God, I promise you, they're all going to be dead. And if they're not all dead, you can hold me responsible. He promises to God, hold me accountable for if I don't do this, you hold me accountable. This is death coming. This is not just mean people. Let me show you what's going on. Nabal over here, go to the next slide. Nabal, he returned evil for good. We all agree, Nabal was kind of a dummy. Right? Even the worst of people should recognize maybe giving a little bit to these guys and helping them out would be okay. David, he just goes straight, well, they're evil. Well, they're going to get evil. Let me ask you something. Where's the hero in the story? Where's the person who's going to do the right thing? Where's the person who does something different than what we expect? This is a story we expect to write. This is a story we could all write. I could write this story tomorrow. Make me mad tomorrow. See what happens. I can write this story. This is an easy one. I will return evil for evil. So we're not going to end the story today. You're not going to see how it ends. You got to come back next week. Gotcha. Right? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to stop at this point in the story because it's so real and it's so human. For David to respond to this like, and by the way, when we read this, you think, well, I know some of you are like, David's kind of in the right? He's got the power to go kill the guy, and he was done wrong. The guy kind of did him dirty. That's like awful. He kind of deserves it. This is my point about this. I think we need to stop right here in the story and just take 4 questions this week to reflect on. And here's what I know about you. This is really uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for me. But let me ask you 4 questions that may help us navigate. What is it we're supposed to do with mean people? How should we respond and react? This first question I asked, do you really want to be even with someone you don't even like? Do you want to be as mean as the other person is mean? Do you actually want to get even? Because if you get even, you will become even. So I know for me, I don't want to be the mean person. And when I respond like that to the mean person, I become mean, then I really got even, didn't I? Yeah, I put me on the same scale as them, which leads to number 2. Wouldn't you rather be ahead? In other words, you know what kind of person you want to become and be. And you know what kind of person you wish they were. You wish they were more kind, considerate, compassionate, generous. And you know you want to be that too. And you're like, well, what if you took the first step in being the one who was a step ahead toward being the kind of person you wanted to be? Instead of getting even, you got just a little bit ahead by becoming that person. You took the first step toward that. Which really leads to the most powerful question, I think, of the week. Are you guys taking pictures of these? Everybody taking notes? Oh, you don't want to? Okay, cool. Get them on social media this week. They'll be there. What story do you want to tell? In other words, think down the road when you have to talk to the next wave of people get hired into your workplace or your children or your grandchildren, and they're asking you about that time that grandpa did this. What kind of story do you want to tell about how you responded to that mean person in that public situation in Walmart? Well, I'll let him have it right there in the parking lot. Or do you want to change the kind of story you're telling about your life? Because if you could look farther down the road and look past this angry, mean person in the way and thought about the kind of story you want to tell with your life, would you at some point go, that's not the story I want to tell about me someday? If I had to stop and tell that story, I'd want something different to tell because that looks really gross and ugly and nasty of me. And I don't know that I want to tell that story to anybody else. So what do we do, Jarrod? You haven't given us an option. I mean, it's either be mean in the moment or it's be mean later and it's blow up and it's ignore it and then it's blow up eventually. Like, what's the option? Let me give you the clue that some of you already come to terms with, but let me give you the last question we'll dive into next week. What would it look like to return good for evil? What would it take for us to turn around to the person who has done us wrong and do good to them in return? What would it change about your life? What would it change about your impact? What would it change about the peace in your heart? What would it change about them having control over you versus not? What would it change about this entire dynamic if you chose a third option, which was, what if I just returned good for their evil? What would it change for you? Regardless of whether they're right or wrong, regardless of whether they deserve it or not, in this moment, what would it change to be the kind of person who said, man, they keep talking smack behind my back and it's all this gossip and their birthday's coming. I'm going to send them cookies. Why would you do that? You're letting them know you're an easy target. No, I'm not letting them know I'm an easy target. I'm just giving them cookies. Good for evil, something. Because it's your own character that's at risk. It's who you're becoming. So listen, those of you who are not followers of Jesus in this room, you can try this and it might work great for you. But you're looking at this and listen, there is no reason why you should try this. If you're a follower of Jesus here this morning, do you realize that this is the gospel in action? Do you realize that God gave us good when we did not deserve it? Like we were enemies of God running away, and Jesus comes and says, I'm going to pay the price anyway and offer you a way forward. If you'll come accept that and trust me in that, you can come and get all the good from my Father that you can. Even though you are not doing it right, you'll never get it right fully. Good for evil. It is the gospel. So if you want Jesus' life to enter into yours, you're going to have to wrestle with these 4 questions this week. And I know it's going to be hard. When you come back next week, we'll end this story, and I'm going to tell you why it's so advantageous to look at these 4 questions and ask them, even in those small moments when somebody mean is just tearing you down. Because what's at stake is your character and the gospel. Let me pray for it. Father in heaven, I pray that this week, as we face the mean people in our lives, wherever they are, would you help us to reframe this conversation around these questions we ask ourselves so that we can come to terms with the fact that, God, you have done so much good to us. We have an overflow of good to offer even to the people who don't treat us well this week. God, would you help us to choose the things that tell a different story in our lives so that we can walk forward in hope, in love, in forgiveness, and generosity, not because the people around us deserve it, but because that's what you've done for us first. And pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.